The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those knuckleheads of liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on April 6th, 2022. Government is just crazy. And maybe we could bring up this next item here. And in Seattle, so they literally have a bicycle helmet law that they had. And now I don't, as a libertarian, I prefer not to have these helmet laws. But that's aside from the point of the story. The point of the story is that their government thinks they do need a bicycle helmet law, but because they found that more black people were being cited for not wearing helmets than white people, they did away with the law. And I mean, this is kind of like what we're seeing in San Francisco and other places where, well, we're seeing a lot of shoplifting, and well, let's just not make that a crime anymore. Because we don't like the way this is impacting who's being arrested. We're not too comfortable with that, so let's just not have that law anymore. And I just can't even imagine. And they sit here and they say, hey, we're going to provide free bicycle helmets, and we think this is an important law, and it's important that people wear helmets, but we're not going to do it anymore because of equity, because we just don't think that the numbers aren't coming out the way we want them to. What do you guys think about that?
Well, go ahead, Tim. Tim, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Leon. I started first last time.
Wherever we see the Democrats in charge, and in Seattle, I guess in this case these Democrats are more socialists. Wherever you see them in charge, you always see this garbage, this equity nonsense, where we have to have these quote unquote equitable outcomes before we could be comfortable and before we could be right. That if we just change these laws, if we make, well, in this case, the helmet law, and you're right, I don't know why we have helmet laws, but we do have them. But if you're going to remove them, you don't remove them because of this so-called equity. If you want the helmet laws, maybe you should be educating people about the use of the helmet, because nobody is claiming that people are being unjustly fined for not wearing the helmet. They're not claiming that. You're just claiming that the outcomes are turning out that way. So if we find one group of people, I guess in their logic, in their world, in this utopia that they want to create, if we find that one group of people committing more murders per capita than another group of people, I guess then in that case we'll have to stop. We'll have to remove the laws about murder being a crime. But this is the idiocy of the law. Of the thinking of these people. This is the idiocy of their thinking, that they think the way for us to get to utopia is by making everything equitable, and the equitable definitions are their definitions, not ours. Okay, so if the helmet law is unjust because of the outcomes of who's been fined, well, okay, we should remove the law. I guess when the outcomes of murder, in terms of who's committing those crimes, turn out to be unjust, inequitable, I guess we'll have to make murder legal then, and then everything will be fine, and we'll get to that utopia that they're wishing for. God help us with these people.
Well, I guess if they remove the law for everybody, that means white people will be equally able to give themselves concussions as black, correct? Is that the deal?
Equity and injury.
Yeah, equity and injury, right. We're all equally prone to killing ourselves with a head injury on a bicycle as opposed to before. Of course, as a libertarian, I agree with the two of you that these kinds of laws should not even exist in the first place. And what a world would be for our taking if we had a more libertarian view, and instead of a top-down, centrally planned view, where the central planners plan, okay, we're going to make this law, this helmet law, because we know helmets save lives. They do. Okay, bicycle helmets included. And no argument there. However, we're going to mandate that everybody wears a helmet at maybe a certain age or whatever when riding a bicycle. And so, oh my gosh, black kids can't afford bicycle helmets, or for whatever reason, or maybe they don't like them, or for whatever cultural reason you want to think of. I don't know, but the top-down central planners didn't think of all that stuff. They just thought their world was just going to change for the better, just like seatbelt laws, the same exact thing. Yeah, seatbelts are great. I've always worn them, even before they were mandatory to be worn. I would always wear them simply because they save lives. It's just, research is there. Is pretty cut and dry. I don't have to, but I do. I guess that, if they saw me without one. How about in my airplane? Do I have to wear the whole shoulder harness thing with the strap that goes under you've got a crotch strap, a lap belt, and 2 shoulder harnesses? I don't have to wear those. I mean, there's a mandate that I do according to the FAA. The FARs cover that. But who's going to see if I'm up in the plane by myself? Nobody. So, it's on my own recognizance, which is the way humans ought to be able to respond to the decisions that they make daily about their safety. They should do it based on their own safety, not based on, oh my gosh, am I going to get a $200 fine for not doing this thing that my higher up elites, my mom and dad demand of me. Gee whiz, I sure wish. I'm sure glad I wore my bicycle helmet and avoided that, because I went right by that cop. He would have given me $100 ticket or whatever. But, and then I get in an accident, fall, hit the pavement on my helmet instead of my head, and I survive without any issues. Oh, that's not as important as avoiding that $100 fine. So this kind of thinking, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. Did people start thinking this stupidly? And then the government came along and made a law? Or did the government come along and make a law and then people started thinking stupid again? I don't know which one was first.
One thing I think is kind of would be kind of funny about all this is if they take away the law and then they find out more black people are getting disproportionately hurt on bicycles. Exactly. And then they turn around and they say, well, it's racist that we didn't have a law.
And you know what? Honestly, if that came about, I'm sorry. Therein is the punishment. That it's not the fine, it's the getting hurt. And so if that's not enough motivation for the black community to go and invest in bicycle helmets, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wish it were more of a motivation. It motivates me. I'm an adult. I don't have to wear a bicycle helmet. When I ride my bike, guess what? I wear a bicycle helmet. So, and I don't have to, but I do because I don't want to get hurt. And things are cheap. It's so cheap nowadays. You can get them on Amazon for I don't know what. So there's no excuse. Okay, other than the motivation. And, if that's the case, if more black kids start dying because they're not wearing their bicycle helmets, but the white kids, in spite of the lack of a law compelling them to, they stop wearing bicycle helmets, or they do, or they don't stop because they're, I don't know. What's the reason? I don't know what the reason is. And honestly, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a racial thing or a cultural thing or a economic thing or whatever thing. We are individuals that are responsible to ourselves, people, not to the government, not to, I'm going to genuflect on the ground and worship the almighty great God government because they mandate that I wear a bicycle helmet. So I'm going to wear one. But if it's just for me.
You see, but Jason raised an important point there, because So what will be the utopian solution? These socialist idiots. What will be the utopian solution if they found out that, well, they removed the law and now we have more black and maybe brown kids having more injuries than, say, white kids? What then? Are we going to say the removal of the law now is racist now?
Yeah.
What would be the equitable?
No-win situation.
No-win situation. No-win situation. Exactly. But the whole point about it, I think Tim touched on it. We have to stop looking at skin color as some important characteristic in our human existence. Okay? Skin color should tell you nothing. My blackness should tell you nothing about me. Okay? It should tell you absolutely nothing about me. You know nothing about me until I open my mouth or until I behave in some manner. And so that is what it should be. And I should know nothing about you guys until I talk to you guys, until I interact with you guys, until we get to that place. Until we get to that place, we'll always have these idiocies coming from the government and from the people that we have to interact with in society, where race has become so important, we can't think about nothing else. Wow. We have to get to Martin Luther King's words. We must judge by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. We have to get there. If we don't get there, we'll always be in trouble.
Yeah, so...
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.